Hello and welcome. This is Frame by Frame. I'm Zach, and I'm joined by as always, by my lovely co-hosts, Emily
Hello. Hi.
and Riley.
Howdy.
So we're all we're all employees at Saffron Screen, and if this is your first time listening, this is the first podcast of 2025. Our kind of job with this podcast, or aim, is to sort of educate you, kind of get you up to date, possibly review, sort of preview the upcoming films that we have each month at Saffron Screen. Hopefully, kind of get you, kind of educated about the films and kind of more excited to see them. So we're going to be telling you about some exciting films in January this time. But before we do that, we're going to have a little year in review and kind of look back upon our favorite films of 2024. So Riley, I don't know if you wanted to start with
Oh
your
God.
fave of 2024.
So when you said this, I was like, cool, I'm gonna be able to pick out like the top three or something, whatever. I had to go through my list of what I watched this last year rather, and I was like, oh, that's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, that was a good one as well. And came up with a long list, and I have cut it down. Um, But I think I struggled a bit because last year I watched a lot of new ones, but also I watched a lot of films that had been out like, I don't know, years and years that I'd just never seen. Um, so it was tricky, but am I just saying one or just a couple?
However you want to kind of do it.
Oh
I
my
don't mind.
word. Okay. Okay. I think the one that really stuck out that I forgot about until I actually looked at the list again, even though it stuck out and I enjoyed it so much, was the Book of Clarence that I
Oh.
saw back on, I don't know, sometime in April. And it's not one that I was intrigued. It's not one I would go for because it's the story of the Bible. It's very religious,
Hmm.
but it's done in a way that's like so, I don't want to say woke, but it was a very modern script, but it was
Hmm.
completely set in Jerusalem.
But it's got a more kind of progressive, like modern take on it.
Yes. Yeah, even though like the it's literally it's something that you would put on like in a primary school class to learn about like the
Hmm.
Christianity and everything. It was just it made me laugh and it made me so emotional and it was really weird and wacky. Like they had scenes where they would go and like there's one scene where they go to this like I don't know, in quotation cafe, it's one cafe, and they smoke and get high and they all start floating and it was just so surreal, but it just made sense and it was really emotional because you got attached to the main character, Clarence. And yes, it was based off of religion
Hmm.
and it spoke about Jesus and how he was portrayed and how people in that community viewed him and all of these different like intricate details. But it was just so, I don't know, like the soundtrack was like hip hop and it was so clever. I loved it. That's probably the one that really sticks out for me in 2024. But another couple of honorable mentions quickly. I won't go through all of them, but I'm just going to read down the list. After Sun, my God, made me sob. All of Us Strangers made me sob again.
Yeah.
Mother's Instinct, that was made me gasp. Civil War, amazing. Sometimes I think about dying with Daisy Ridley. Oh my God. Uh, Fly Me to the Moon, amazing.
Mm.
Long Legs. Oh my God. And then
Hmm.
also
A
Trap.
lot of honorable mentions.
I
Oh,
know.
Trap, the M. Night
Oh,
Shyamalan one. Yeah.
Trap was yeah, I put it on. I was like, oh yeah, I'll give it a go. I've been wanting to watch it, but the subject matter put me off because I misunderstood what it was about. And I was like, okay, I'll put it on while I'm wrapping Christmas presents. I got two presents in. I could not tear my eyes away from the screen. I was like,
Oh,
what is going on?
well, that's how you
Didn't
know
wrap
it's a
those
good
presents.
film.
But yes, that was kind of me in a nutshell for 2024.
that's kind of good because you mentioned like loads, especially like the Book of Clarence. Like I
Mm.
didn't see like there's even tons of great films that I missed. So you've actually given me like kind of stuff to go back and
Yeah.
do because I
Yeah,
didn't
and
see
I missed
Trap, I
so
didn't
many as
see that.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we're probably all going to mention like films now that
Yeah.
each other didn't see, but like, yeah, I know I need to see that, especially because I kind of liked James Samuel's last film, the guy who did Book of Clarence, his
Mm.
the Western one he did, which kind of again had a more sort of modern
Yeah.
spin on it, which was quite
I
interesting.
don't
But
think I've ever seen any of his other
yeah,
work, but definitely after watching Book of Clarence, I want to kind of, yeah, continue to look into his work.
cool. Well, Emily, do you want to go with yours now?
Well, okay, last year I did a little letterbox list of my favorite UK releases.
I love it.
Um Shout out to Letterboxd. Follow our Saffron Screen Letterbox if you
Yeah.
fancy. A lot of these are kind of uh yeah, things that are very wide releases. So third was Priscilla. Second, I put The Holdovers, and first, my absolute favorite film of last year was Challengers.
Oh, yeah.
All
Okay.
three are ones we've already covered on the podcast, but I just I have to talk about Challengers again because it is
Hmm.
so good, and I'm so annoyed that it's not getting more Oscars like award season recognition, especially
Hmm.
like Zendaya's performance and for the direction as well. I just think the way that Luca Guadagnino like portrayed tennis as this kind of as being power was just
Hmm.
so brilliantly done, and the cinematography is brilliant, the sound is brilliant. I loved every second of it, and I want to watch it again. I will as soon as I get time. But yeah, watching it in the cinema was brilliant. I remember I had a hangover on that day. And you know that at the end of the film when you get to like step into the shoes of a tennis ball and you get whacked
Hmm.
Yeah,
around
yeah,
by the
yeah.
camera. And it really didn't help the fact that I had a hangover, but it was still brilliant. I still loved it. I also want to mention there's something I watched in the secret cinema club at university called it's called Baldy it's a short film. It's a 25-minute short film. And I believe it's yeah, I believe it's German. And basically, the premise is through the lens of her father's camera, Martha looks back at a period of her life of which she remembers nothing. 20 years after surviving cancer as a child, she searches for traces of illness between scars and desires. And basically, it's this beautiful short film. She uses the footage that her father took of her as a child, and she reflects on how doctors and her family kind of made her life miserable when she had cancer as a kid. And it's just beautiful. It's so emotional. And yeah, definitely one of the best things I watched this year.
As an interesting one to go with a short film,
I
like
know,
Yeah.
I'll say, I'm guaranteeing no one listening right now has seen that one, so that would definitely be one
exactly.
that people can
Yeah.
add. But
Mm.
yeah, I agree. Challenges as well was a really good pick. I mean, the people who like I saw it with basically forced me to come see it with them, and
Mm.
they'd already seen it, so like it kind of speaks to how good that film
I
is.
mean, everyone was talking about it for weeks
Mm.
on end. I am really surprised that it's not getting more recognition at the
I
moment.
think it just came too early in the year, so it's been a bit
Yeah.
buried like in people's memory, unfortunately. But I agree, like it definitely, especially I think direction and like Zendaya's performance and just
Yeah.
yeah, the acting, the script as well. You know, I thought the script's really
Yeah.
well done. Used
Mm.
non-linear like time really, really well, I thought. But
You watched like I watched the complete opposite, the a different extreme to you. You watched it in the big screen with a hangover. I watched it on a plain screen. And I feel like I enjoyed it on a plain screen and I need to watch it on a big screen. Like
Mm.
yeah,
this has to happen.
it's just
So
different. It's different.
yeah.
Well, to be fair, my best film of the year is definitely one that is like the film I think of 2024 to have seen on the big screen. 'Cause for
Ooh.
me, it was Dune Part Two.
Yeah.
Was that was
Oh,
the best
I
thing for me?
can
That was like
that.
Dune Part Two and everything else for me
I know how much you
personally.
love that film. Yeah.
I really, really, really love that film. Like the first one was great. I thought it was really smart that they put it into two parts, which was kind of a risky
Yeah.
move, especially since the second part wasn't greenlit for the first. And the first one is great, but it's a much, like kind of slower pace, and it's building up blocks of a lot of kind of the fireworks that go off in two. And I just thought that again, tremendous looking film. I love Greg Fraser. Like Greg Fraser is one of my favorite cinematographers. He did The Batman, which is one of my favorite looking films ever. This is one of my favorite looking films. All the performances. I was genuinely like before we started, I was like just reminding myself, especially of like the fight scenes and everything, and all because the sound is so brilliant in it. I remember I watched it because it was the final screening that they were showing in IMAX in the cinema that I went to. So like it was going to go out cinemas like I think literally the next day. So it was a final IMAX screening. And I was really happy they got to see it in IMAX because I just remember like the thud of kind of the opening combat scenes with the Harkonnens when they get the darts through their heads and they drop off the cliff and just like being like, okay, I know I know what I'm in for, and like how
Yeah.
immersive this experience is. And I thought, yeah, it was really deep and like really awesome thematic, but it also just like on a visceral level of like the world building and just the scenes and like the special effects you got to see and like the incredible fight scenes and stuff. It just like had everything for me.
Mm.
It was really by far like there was nothing for me that really could topple it after I saw that film.
Yeah.
So for me, it was more for like the rest of the year. It was more about like what was I gonna like more than I thought, rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
like what was gonna beat Dune Part Two. And so I kind of want to like give a shout out to some films that like surprised me. And I
Mm.
so we actually talked about one of these before the start of the podcast, which was Better Man, which we talked about on the last podcast episode, which
Mm.
was a really big surprise for me. I love Robbie Williams, but I thought the CGI monkey thing was a really big risk, but it really pays off and it actually really works. Juror Number Two, which was the final film that I saw in 2024, really, really solid script. Genuinely, it was one where everyone like walks out silent, just thinking about the moral
Yeah.
dilemma that
I
just
haven't
happened.
seen it yet, but I know that everyone has been talking about it, and people have been saying that it's like an instant classic. They love it, and
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to it.
and it's Clint Eastwood's final film, so I mean, like, if you're a Clint Eastwood
Yeah.
Yeah.
fan, like, go and see that because yeah, he goes out on a high, in my opinion, and
Yeah.
Nicholas Hoult
Good.
was great in it, and so. And then the other two that I had were Transformers One, which was like I think advertised very, very poorly. It
Mm.
seemed very kiddie. It actually really works from an adult perspective and a kid's perspective. Really awesome, like Transformers origin story. So if you like Transformers already, like it's a must see.
Mm.
And then the final one was A Different Man with Sebastian Stan and Adam Pearson.
Yeah.
Truly weird movie, but like just done perfectly. I don't want to like give too much away about that one, but that was one I didn't think I was going to be able to see because it was only played once Saffron screen, but like was really really glad that I was able to catch it because like yeah, that's another one that you kind of think about for a long time like after you come out, and I hope that kind of gets more attention too, especially Adam Pearson's performance in that movie. That would be my kind of films that I'd want to highlight for 2024. But,
It's pretty
I think
interesting.
it's been a
Like,
good year.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's very different, like each of us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like kind of worried that we'd all go for like the same
Yeah,
movie. It'd be
same.
sort of challenges Dune and something else, but actually we all went like different kind of things.
Yeah. Who knows what 2025 is gonna bring?
But now we've kind of, reviewed the films that came out in 2024, our favorites in 2024. We're now going to look at the films coming out this month, first month 2025. So the first 2025 film of Frame by Frame, I will pass over to Riley for Nickel Boys.
Hello. I feel like I possibly did the first film of 2024 as well with uh oh my
Next
word.
Goal
Let's
Wins.
Go Wins, yeah,
Yeah.
possibly. Anyway, regardless of that, yes, I'm going to talk about Nickel Boys, which it was one when I was reading through the program, it was one that really stuck out as one that I think I would like. So it's called Nickel Boys. It's based off of the Pulitzer Prize winning novel by Colson Whitehead. So it's based off of the Dozier School for Boys, which was notorious for abusive treatments of the students. It follows the story of two young African American men navigating the harrowing trials and kind of navigating their time together, and uh, it looks amazing. That's all I'm gonna like. That's not all I'm gonna say, but it just looks stunning. Um, so the book obviously was incredible. It did really well. And they've changed obviously the names of the school because it is like a real life situation. They've changed the name of the school and but it is essentially what happened. So it follows Elwood Curtis, who it looks like he's kind of his next step in life is all set up. So he's got his place in college and he's just about to kind of make this next step in his into manhood basically. And then he's falsely accused of a crime and he gets sent to this school and he becomes friends with a boy called Turner and
Mm.
they get very close and it's just the interesting thing about this is I mean I was struck by the synopsis anyway when I first read it, but when I actually started to look into it, it's done like it's shot through a POV. So like
Mm.
it's
Yeah,
it's just I was a bit worried because I was like, how am I going to connect to the main character if I can't see them?
yeah.
Mm.
Um, but I think it's going to be very clever. I mean, you do see them. There's different points where you do see the main character, even though it is done through POV, but through the characters around him and how they interact with him. So he speaks to obviously the his friend Turner, and then he speaks to his grandma, I believe. And it's just the amount the I don't know how to say it, the amount of emotion in it and the level of emotion really draws you in and gives you a sense of who the main character is, even though you can't see him. And I think that's done really, it's just so clever done that way. And
Mm.
the cinematography, despite even though it's done through POV, and that's just like amazing in its own self in terms of how it's done and how it carries the story.
Mm.
Apart from that, it is really stunning and it really matches the kind of somber mood, I guess. And it's not as gritty and it is harrowing, but in terms of visually, it's not, it doesn't, from what I've seen, it's not harrowing.
It's
Um,
quite good. It's actually quite like a good looking
yeah,
film. Like it's actually pleasing to the eye. Obviously, like it's a really rough story from the
yeah,
sounds of it, but from the
yeah,
trailer, like it did look like a film where you go, "Oh, that's like a really nice shot." Because sometimes those kind of gritty films with gritty stories can also be dull to look at, which makes them
mm,
hard to watch. Whereas if you've
yeah,
actually kind of got something nice to look at, weirdly, it makes that story more. You can connect with it more, and I think
yeah,
you want to
Yeah.
engage with it more. I think.
yeah. It's very, it's got a very unique style and it's got a lot of shots, like even in the trailer where you see the shot and you're like, oh my God, that's like, that is so different and in a good way and you usually see shots like that. So to see it all together in I think it's 2 hours 20 minutes, so it's going to be a long one, but I think it deserves that time and it uses that time. But to see how all of those shots are strung together in terms and as well with the POV shots is gonna I think it's gonna be completely worth it. It's gonna be I mean it's gonna be a story that is it's not an easy story. Um, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be emotional. I'm gonna say emotional a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna be easy to watch, but I think it is gonna be worth it for the audience. So it's
Mm.
directed by Ramal Ross, who directed it and also co-wrote it as well. And he in the past has done some cinematography, so I don't know if that kind of links into how it is
Mm.
actually looking, although Ramal isn't the cinematographer on this piece. The cast is well, some of the cast is Ethan Harris, who I believe plays Elwood Curtis, Brandon Wilson, and Onjunu Ellis Taylor. Apologies if I have pronounced that wrong. Those are kind of the top three build at the moment, but the rest of the cast looks stunning as well.
No, I was just going to say it's not like very big stars or anything, is it? It's quite
Exactly what I was going to say.
a lot of
Yeah.
unknowns. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was looking into the kind of like the projects that they've done in the past. And I know it might just be that I haven't seen them, but a lot of the projects I haven't heard of. And like a couple of them have been in like one-off episodes of things like Chicago Med, and then they've been in short films. They've been in TV miniseries, TV series. I think, where are we? Ingenue Ellis was Oscar nominated. I cannot
Mm.
remember what for, so I'm just
Yes, she was in
King
King
Richard.
Richard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did I
Yes.
see her in that actually. Yeah. I no, I
Yeah.
remember she actually gave a
Mm,
very good performance. I do remember that
mm.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's the only kind of big film name that I kind of recognize. Um,
Mm.
but it kind of when I look at a project and I'm like, oh, these are all these big names, it makes me excited, right? It makes everyone excited. They use that to promote the films. But when
Mm.
I see a project like this with the kind of like not completely unknown cast, but cast that I don't recognize, it makes me even more excited because I'm like, these are often the projects that, and then the films that I watch, and I'm like, that was absolutely amazing. Like, I had no expectations apart. I had a little bit of expectation that it's going to be good, but you don't have like comparisons, um,
No,
and I
oh, and
think,
also you just believe
yeah,
the story, don't you? Because you just see
yeah,
them as characters rather than as the
exactly,
actors,
Yeah.
which I think is,
yeah,
especially since this is based on a real story. Obviously, they change the names and things.
hmm
Like, I think that's quite important here.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's going to be like it's. I'm so excited for this. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to see it as soon as I want to, but it is definitely like on the one of the priority
Mm.
lists. So it kind of gives me the same feel as not completely the same, but kind of Hard Miles, which was about the school for kids that would have otherwise gone to prison. It's based off of a true story. And this coach in the school basically takes, I think it's like six kids, like who do not gel together. They have done some terrible things and they take them on a bike journey to the Grand Canyon. And it's all about
Mm.
character building and focusing on like these different stories and the true meaning of like community and humanity and all these different things. So it kind of gave me the same feeling as that. I know it's set in a different time and it's got complete different context because there's the abuse involved and everything. But I loved Hard Miles, so if it's anything along the same like emotional level as that, I'm gonna love it.
Yeah, it feels like it's gonna be quite kind of character dynamic
Yeah,
focus. So like relationship,
Mm.
yeah,
uh relate the relationships between these characters,
yeah.
which is always interesting to watch.
Yeah, and I love that stuff. Like, I love
Yeah.
stories and everything, but in terms of like the character relationships with each other, that is usually what draws me in and makes me love a film, is just
Mm.
those connections. Quickly going back to the cinematography as well. In terms of the POV storyline with it, there are a lot of reflections, a lot of shots with reflections. So you do see the character just through like uh through a window or a mirror or something. And I mean, that's clever in itself that you don't see the camera and all that. That always
Mm.
baffles me. But I think it really adds to the story of it is a view, it is a reflection on how you see yourself, how you want to be, and who you want to be in the world. So I think that's very clever.
It,
That's
I
so
mean,
clever.
the style was connected to the theme, I
Yeah.
think, and it is both of the two main characters, isn't it? That it alternates
Yes.
between. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you see, I have the other name has Turner. You see Turner as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, I just think it's just such a interesting. You don't see it a lot, like POV shots in films.
No, literally the only thing that like I can compare it with, like POV shot like that, I can compare it with is like Peep Show. That's
Yeah.
not quite the same tone,
No, I know what you mean
I don't
though.
think.
Yeah. And even like the score of what you hear in the trailer is just so moving. Like
Mm.
before you even know the story, the score just like it gets you and it gives you the goosebumps, which I love a good score as well. Um,
Yeah.
People have said good things and kind of not so good things. So obviously it's a sensitive uh topic and a sensitive story. And it's like, is it gonna portray that in the correct way? And is it gonna be sensitive to the subject as well? And kind of expectation versus reality, and is it gonna blow it out of proportion for the sake of storytelling, or is it gonna kind of do it justice and the characters justice, the real people justice as well? So there is that question that comes with a lot of films kind of based on a quite serious topic. But in terms of like what people are talking about and how they're reviewing it, it is a very mixed bag. Um, a few people have said, I mean, just a couple of things that kind of I've picked from different comments is someone said it's style more than certificate. Sorry. Some people have said, well, no, one person said style more than satisfaction. Another person has said not for everyone. Go in with an open mind, so not necessarily a bad thing, just going with an open mind. The artfulness of the cinematography interfered with the storytelling. It was very confusing and vague. So there is that risk, I
Hmm.
guess,
But
and it
broadly
is
speaking,
time
it has
traveling.
been positively reviewed for the most part still though, right?
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah. Um, one more person said that if they hadn't read the book beforehand, they wouldn't be what like they wouldn't be able to follow the storyline.
Okay.
Um, which is interesting because I sometimes find that with other films, but yeah,
Hmm.
I'll find out that when I watch it. However, as you said, it has been getting some amazing sentences about it and a lot of
Yeah.
amazing reviews. Aparita Bandiri, who's a top critic, has said it seems like an injustice to call it simply a film. It's a remarkable piece of art, even more impressive when you consider that it's photographer and filmmaker Rommel Ross's feature film in fiction. So that in
Hmm.
itself is incredible.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was kind of the reviews that I was expecting, kind of that level. Um, Also, someone else said this movie absolutely floored me. I must warn that it's not for the faint of heart, and the presentation and filmmaking techniques, groundbreaking as they are going to lose some people. Go into this movie with an open mind and embrace it. It'll knock you out. I kind of agree. It's not going to be for everyone because some people just want to watch a film and be entertained and kind of get lost in it.
Hmm.
But if you're someone like all three of us who love film and we love looking at it from a different angle, I think whether or not we love the story, we're gonna find it like an incredible piece of art.
I think a lot of the
Yeah.
audience at Saffron Screen is like that as well.
Yeah. It's more art than a film, I guess. Yeah. Like yeah. I have high expectations for this one just because of the
Hmm.
visual side of it and the score as well. But the visual side
Hmm.
of it, the actors and the score just feel like it's gonna
Yeah.
tie it all up and just make it like a bundle of power.
Hmm.
Yeah, so Nickel Boys is we've only gone on twice, so it is on Friday the 17th of January, Sunday the 19th of January, and they start at 7 p.m. So it's a longer film. It's 2 hours 20. But we're starting it a bit earlier, so it's not too late. But I think every minute is gonna be worth it. Um, and I'd love to hear what people think about it as well.
Yeah. Definitely gonna go see that when it's out. So
Yeah. So Nickel Boys is kind of the middle-ish of the month, but another film that I know a lot of people are talking about and asking about is what Amelie's going to talk about. So I'm ready to learn a little bit more. So go for it.
Okay, so I am covering Maria, which is interestingly enough, it is the final film in the trilogy of I want to make sure I'm saying his name right. Pablo Larraín, his trilogy of 20th century women, which is Spencer and Jackie.
No
And then
way.
Maria is the
yeah.
third one in this trilogy that he's made. So it follows opera singer Maria Callas, who retreats to Paris in the 1970s after a glamorous yet tumultuous life in the public eye. So she was an American and a Greek soprano, and she was born on the 2nd of December 1923 in New York City. She died on the 16th of September 1977 in Paris. So she was 53, very young.
Mm.
Uh, she basically she in the early 70s she lived alone from 1974 before her heart attack in 1977. So after this great life she'd had in the public eye, she decided to retreat to Paris and lived alone, basically saw no one for the last few years of her life. And this film follows basically the last 7 days before her death. She is visited by an interviewer. He follows the story and she recounts her entire life. It is one of those, I don't want to say like generic biopic structures. You've got like just the main subject of the film recounting their entire life.
Mm.
But there is an interesting thing about it, which is that there's shots of it's shot in kind of a mockumentary kind of style.
Mm.
You've got these interview shots that are low quality, and then they're paired with these shots of her entire life.
Mm.
So it stars Angelina Jolie, who everyone knows, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, she has had rave reviews about this.
Mhm.
The Independent said that she's giving a career-defining performance as Maria, and she refused to be dubbed and took 7 months of opera singing classes
Yeah.
Oh
performed in this,
wow.
even though even though 90% of the film is Callus's original recording. So when you have these past segments, they're all Callus's original recordings. But then you have a little bit at the end, which is Angelina Jolie singing. And even though it's a small amount of it, she didn't want to be dubbed and she wanted to sing herself, which is like I'm really excited to see that.
There's yeah,
Mm.
quite impressive.
That's
Yeah,
dedication.
exactly, exactly. There's a little bit that is shot in black and white as well, which I'll be interested to see because it didn't make very clear from the trailer what significance that had. But
Mm.
there's a little bit shot in black and white, so I'm excited to see what significance that holds.
Mm.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's just it. Although I have said that it does feel like it's following a generic biopic structure, I feel like it is difficult these days for it not to fit into that when you're making a biopic.
Mm.
So I am excited
Maybe.
because it's obviously Spencer and Jackie were both brilliant. So
Mm.
I'm excited to see what he does
But
with it.
he did do, I mean, you say obviously maybe this is a more generic style, but obviously it's kind of like you say, it's kind of got the stylistic features of the
Yeah,
old footage, the interview footage with the kind of, and it's got the black and white. So it's got a few things that maybe tease stylistically. But I'm just thinking like Spencer was a film that was really not a traditional biopic in terms of it
yeah.
had these like psychological horror kind of scenes of the way it kind of depicted like Diana's kind of eating disorders
Mm,
and you know her mental health at that time. So I feel like this is a director who does know how to sort of make a biopic stand
exactly.
out and not just do like the safe kind of normal
Mm.
structure of one. So I feel like even though maybe it's advertised
Mm,
as that kind of generic structure of oh she just looks back on her life, I feel like maybe there's something, you know, a bit like maybe
I
Maestro, but I feel
yeah.
like there's something kind of more maybe that's under there just given Pablo Larraín's kind of previous work.
Exactly. And I did consider that because it is distributed by Netflix, there is a lot of people that will gravitate towards it if it's advertised in the way that it is.
Mm.
So I have a feeling that that may play into it. The writer is Stephen Knight, who is the creator of Peaky Blinders,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which is very
quite,
interesting.
quite interesting. And he's doing a little bit more in the movie work because I know he's also meant to be like writing a remake of Vertigo as well with Robert Downey Jr.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of been in the works
What?
for a while with Robert Downey Jr. producing, and I think he would act in some role. But anyway, that's kind of off piece. But like, I think Stephen Knight is much more trying to go into the film world. So
Yeah.
I feel like if he gets a big biopic like this, which is kind of like
Yeah,
besides superhero films, this is the big Hollywood genre at the moment. I
exactly.
feel like if he can nail this, you know, like maybe that's kind of his ticket into really obviously, I mean, tremendously successful series already, but like
Mm.
kind of if he wants to be a Hollywood scriptwriter and that's really his focus now. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's looking like it's gonna do well. I mean, I've heard really good things. It's it's interesting that it's an international co-production, so it's Italy, Germany, and the United States. And there's a lot of apart from Angelina Jolie, there's not really anyone that I can pinpoint that I've seen before because it's Greek and Italian and a couple of Turkish actors
I,
as well.
I will say there are two actors which I recognized.
Yeah.
So Cody Smith McPhee, who's one of Maria's hallucinations, who was Oscar nominated before for Power of the Dog.
Mm.
He's
Mm,
Peter, the young boy in
of
that.
course.
So that maybe he's someone to look out for. The other one, kind of a throwback to an earlier episode of Frame by Frame, which is Alba Ruruka. She is the sister of Alice Ruruka, who directed La Chimera.
Ah, I was gonna say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there is a connection to, all Frame by
Everything's
Frame
always
episodes
connected.
link. Yeah, actually.
It's like that Kevin
So
Bacon game, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah,
Everyone's connected to Kevin Bacon.
How can you connect these Saffron Screen podcast episodes?
yeah.
Oh,
God.
I think like it's I mean a lot of people have been asking about it like when we're having it and before it was kind of on the program. And I think a lot of people are going to be gravitated towards it as well because they remember her.
Mm.
And they
Yeah.
were kind of invested in her story
Yeah.
when she was alive and then I think that was the kind of the first wave of interest and then the second wave was all of these reviews about Angelina Jolie and her wanting to kind of train to become a singer and how
Mm.
they're going to work that into the film. And I think there's just been different waves of piquing people's interest.
She said that in an interview, I believe that it's kind of made her finally recognize what it is to be an artist, which
Mm,
is
Wow.
so interesting. And
yeah.
I'm really excited to see how this has shaped her because it's a
Mm,
lot to learn 7 months of opera singing just for a little segment at the end, but it's a
yeah.
lot of dedication.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clearly a role that I mean, like you say, said she's, really sees herself as an artist now, or is,
Yeah.
sees what it is to be an artist. Like, I mean, this must be a role that she's very invested in and that she like really,
Oh
that
yeah.
she really probably wanted to do because it's a thing like I can't think of the last thing like Angelina Jolie was sold as a big star or a big
Right.
thing in. Like she's been,
No.
she's obviously, you say her name, everyone knows who she is, but like
Mm.
can't remember the last film that like I went to see her in. So it feels quite nice almost that she's this, big movie star, and now she's kind of getting this opportunity later in her career to come back to be the selling feature of a big film, like a big Netflix film, and then find herself as an artist and probably get loads of acclaim from everyone else in
Yeah.
Yeah.
doing it. It's kind of a nice sort of story for maybe someone who's not
Like
quite
a
had the star
cyclical moment.
power,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
recently.
It's such a flex as well, like to have been in the game for so long and then to like
Yeah.
not be like a massive role in it for a couple of years and then to come back and be like, yeah, still got it.
Yeah.
Exactly, which it seems like she's discovering, and that's really interesting. I'm gonna look at some more interviews of her because it's really cool to see how artists have kind of been shaped by a role. I just wanted to mention uh, a line that's in the trailer. One of the interviewer asks her, "Perhaps we could speak of your life away from the stage," and Maria replies, "There is no life away from the stage," which I just thought was it really interesting. I like that. I just want to mention
It's the kind of, well, I mean, that's quite a good insight on on,
that.
on the woman that she is, I think.
I think it's really, really a fun thing to watch those kind of movies. Like, for example, Whiplash is one of my favorite movies
Mm.
where artists are so dedicated to their craft that they are so like it's just tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of my favorite things as a film
It's like
genre.
the red shoes as well. If
Yeah,
you want an
yes,
older
of course.
reference, it's
Yeah.
the same sort of thing. But I mean, yeah, it's a repeated thing in art, but it's also a repeated thing in artists, like
Yeah.
actual people's, and this is kind of both, I guess, because it's
Yeah.
a film about one of them. So
Okay, so if you are looking forward to watching Maria, you can see it. I think it's on 3 times at Saffron Screen. The first is the 24th of January at 7:30, the 25th of January at 7:30, and the 26th at 7:30 as well. So that weekend you've got. So fit it in when you can.
awesome.
I think that's going to go down really well. It's selling really well as well.
Glad to see the cinema still doing well in the era of streaming. Of course, that's a
Yeah.
Netflix movie, so it's kind of
Yeah.
December 2024 was the best month ever for Saffron Screen
Oh
ever.
wow.
in terms of like bums on seats or ticket
Damn.
sales. Um,
It's
yeah,
probably
Wow.
Paddington and Wicked carrying the
Wicked,
one
yeah,
or two.
definitely. Yeah.
yeah.
But if either of those two films that we just talked about, Maria and Nickel Boys, didn't take your fancy, we do have some other films coming to Saffron Screen this late January, which includes on the 18th of Jan, we have Sonic the Hedgehog 3, that's playing again on the 19th, and as well as the 1st of February. We also have Queer on for one night only, that's on the 18th, starring Daniel Craig. Then we have the Lion King prequel, Mufasa, which is playing on the 25th, 26th, and then also on the 2nd of Feb, and that's a subtitled screening. And then finally, we have Baby Girl, which is right at the end of the month. That's 31st of Jan, and it's also playing on the 1st of Feb. So you should have a lot to choose from. So we hope to see you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, if there's nothing in, I'm sure there will be something in January for you. February is looking to be another really cool month. So, yeah, you'll have to come back next time to
Keep an
see what we
eye out.
say about those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you
Alright.
for coming back and listening.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Hope-
sticking with us
sti-
through 2024.
Exactly. And we hope you stick with us to the whole of 2025
Yeah.
too. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, thank you for listening.
Thank
Yeah.
you. See you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.